The name Bonaparte, while belonging to perhaps the most famous person of French history, is actually a name of Italian origin, simply being the French form of the Italian surname Bonaparte. This surname actually comes from the Italian buona, meaning good, and parte meaning, well, part. So the name means part good, which is interesting, as when it comes to the most famous member of the House of Bonaparte, he was more than just part good when it came to military victory. I'm of course talking about the first Emperor of France, Napoleon Bonaparte. And of course, like I said, Napoleon is the most famous member of the House of Bonaparte. But are there any living relatives of Napoleon Bonaparte who still carry that surname? Born in 1796 on the French island of Corsica to the Italian noble parents of Carlo Bonaparte and Letitia Ramolino, he was not, however, an only child, being the second oldest of 8. The children of Carlo and Letitia were Joseph, Napoleon, Lucien, Eliza, Louis, Pauline, Caroline, and Jerome. By the age of 10 in 1779, Napoleon was already sent to the College of Autun in Burgundy, France. Throughout his schooling, despite his excellent academic skills, he was teased for not being from as noble root as the other boys, and of course due to his short stature, an image that plagues him to this very day, the original Napoleon complex. Yet bullying didn't stop him, and by 1785 he was already second lieutenant in the French army. However, despite this, he and the rest of the Bonapartes were forced to exile their island home of Corsica to live in mainland France due to power struggles there. Throughout the French Revolution and onwards, Napoleon rose through the ranks, eventually becoming Consul of France in 1802 and changing that title to Emperor in 1804. It was from here that Napoleon would reign over France, winning many battles until he was defeated in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Later that year being exiled to the British-owned island of St Helena, dying there in 1821. There's odd symmetry in his birth and death, being born on an island and dying on an island. Perhaps there was some island mentality to go with his Napoleon complex. Anyway, what I just said about Napoleon was the briefest of brief overviews of his life. This video isn't about what Napoleon did during his life, but rather what legacy he left behind. Ideally for us, legacy in the form of living relatives that still bear the name Bonaparte. The first place we should look would be with the children of Napoleon. Napoleon was married twice. His first wife was Josephine de Beauharnais. They wed in 1796, and while they started out in love, this love faded, at least for Napoleon, as he wanted an heir, something Josephine was unable to give him. They divorced in 1810, but it is said that she still loved him till her own death just 4 years later. It was in the same year he divorced his first wife that he married his second wife. This second wife was Maria Louisa, Archduchess of Austria. Napoleon, however, changed her name to just Marie Louise, just for his own convenience. Their relationship wasn't as strong or as loving as his previous marriage, but she did provide him with something his first wife couldn't: an heir. Napoleon Bonaparte II was born in 1811. While Napoleon II, or the Little King as he was known, was not the apple of his mother's eye, his father loved him. Sources say that he would not stop kissing and hugging his son. He would take him to his armory most mornings as a child and would lovingly tease him. Reports also said that when Napoleon had had enough of his day's work, he would lie on the floor next to his son, playing together like two kids. The boy grew up to earn multiple titles, from King of Rome to Duke of Reichstadt. Despite the love his father had for him, the last time he saw him was in 1814, when he wasn't even 3. His life, however, was cut short when he died in 1832 of tuberculosis at the age of just 21. He left no children behind, so a direct line for Napoleon ends here. Or does it? While the Little King may be his only child born in wedlock, Napoleon had 2 illegitimate children from his mistresses, one with Maria Waleska. She was young but already married to the 71-year-old Count Anastase Wawelski. However, this marriage wasn't an issue for Napoleon. This love affair led to the birth of Alexandre Wawelski in 1810. Yet before he had this son, he had another illegitimate son, Charles Leon, in 1806. This child was born during his first marriage, with Charles' mother being another of Napoleon's mistresses. This child was used as proof for Napoleon that it wasn't he who was infertile, but his wife. Speaking of his first wife, she already had 2 children when she married Napoleon, Eugene and Hortense de Beauharnais. Of course, none of these stepchildren or illegitimate children bear the name Bonaparte. Though, funnily enough, when Charles Leon was born, his mother asked if the baby could bear the name of his father, to which Napoleon decreed he could use just half of it. Napoleon had many other mistresses in life, so we may never know for sure just how many children he really had. If there's any chance of the Bonaparte name surviving through to today, it has to be of one of the many siblings of Napoleon. Luckily we have 7 siblings to look into. Our best bet for finding living relatives comes from Napoleon's youngest brother, Jerome Bonaparte. He had 4 legitimate children, one of those being named after his brother, Napoleon Joseph Charles Paul Bonaparte, who became known as Prince Jerome Napoleon. It's here would seem that while these people are still Bonapartes, they drop the name and take on the royal titles of Prince or Princess Napoleon. His son was Victor, Prince Napoleon. His son was Louis, Prince Napoleon. His son is Charles, Prince Napoleon, who is still alive today, and his children, Princess Caroline Napoleon and Prince Jean Christopher Napoleon, are still alive today too, making them the great-great-great-grandnephew and grandniece of the original Napoleon Bonaparte. And while they may not have the name Bonaparte, they carry the name Napoleon, and unlike other people from history who have become known as just their second name, the first Emperor of France has become known by just his first name, Napoleon, which his descendants still carry to this day. Thank you to everyone who helps financially support Name Explain on Patreon. It doesn't take much to help out with running the channel. Just $1 a month goes a long way and gets you access to loads of extras on the Name Explain Patreon. $2 a month gets your name here with all these awesome people. So I really hope you consider supporting Name Explain in the best way possible. Thank you.